ask that, if anybody directs that question for me, I will answer with as much detail as is appropriate. We're joined now in the main interview room by Purdue head coach Matt Painter. We'll ask Coach to give us some thoughts on the day so far, and then we'll start to take some questions as people grab some seats.
Yeah, we're obviously, just working towards, getting ready for our game tomorrow. And it was a joy to practice yesterday here. Always attended events, always around, always went to games at the Final Four to be able to be actually one of the teams that's out there practicing and doing things. So today's going to be a cool day with all the fans here, and to be able to go out there and really just have fun. You're going through your same routine that you would if there's no fans out there. But and I always thought it was cool because there's some fans that can't afford to go to the game or they can't get a ticket to the game, and this is their game. So to be able to go out there, and I know there'll be a lot of Purdue people in the stands that are going to the game, but still they get the opportunity of being here, a day early. So we're excited about it.
If you have a question for Coach Painter, please raise your hand. We have 4 microphone stewards. They'll bring the microphone towards you. I have a question. Coach, Zach Edey was just here to get his second straight AP Player of the Year award, and we don't see a lot of times happen what just happened, which was you were here for that, and your entire team was also here to support Zach. We even took a question from one of your student athletes.
Yeah.
It seems like, first of all, it seems like you guys are loose enough to be doing that, to come here and right. See that sort of thing. And then why do you think that was important?
Yeah. Well, I think obviously he's our pillar and the guy we work around and what we do, but it's not something from an attention seeking that I think he likes. He's gotten more comfortable answering questions and getting that kind of attention. But at the end of the day, he just wants it to be a team game, and he wants the attention to go to everybody. So he does a great job of facilitating that and being humble, and that's refreshing. Who doesn't want to play with a great player, but also a great player that's unselfish and humble like he is? And he's learned to take some things in stride and understand, it's his value, but it's also the value of our team.
On the right side, Lane.
Hey, Coach. Lane Higgins from the Wall Street Journal. After NC State's game against Duke, DJ Burns said he wasn't really that worried about being physical under the post with Kyle Filipowski because he knew Kyle would be worried about taking fouls. And, when you have 2 big men going against each other, like I imagine it will be with DJ and Zach, how do you kind of navigate that fine line between being aggressive and guarding someone like that and not getting into foul trouble?
Yeah, that's a really good question because that's a big piece of the game for size because they deal with fouls a little bit differently, especially somebody like DJ Burns who seeks out that contact, and rightfully so. He does a great job of, getting that feel for that contact, and then he knows which way to go or which way to maneuver. Both of those guys are great because they can score over either shoulder. They can hurt you in a lot of different ways, but they're both really unselfish. So if you want to take away their scoring ability, they're great passers and they can get the ball out of their hands. But I think that's a little different matchup with Kyle Filipowski, who's a fabulous player. I look at him as really like a 4-man. You could even kind of say he's kind of that hybrid forward, that 3-4 type guy. But I think you see guys like him play the 5 a lot because coaches are just trying to get their best players on the floor. So if they got more big guys, then he can move over the 4. If they think their guards are better, they stretch it out and they put him at the 5 and do different things. But with Zach, obviously, he is a 5. He's closer to a 6 than he is a 4. And so I think that matchup's going to be, a great matchup. More than anything, it's trying to be physical without fouling. It's something we talk about a lot. Sometimes we're good at it, sometimes we're not. I think everybody kind of struggles with that. But at the end of the day, it's making people earn their points and stay in the game. And so that's something that he wants to do, DJ Burns wants to do, and that's something Zach wants to do, but also that other team's trying to attack you. So it's, you kind of got to manage that as a coach, especially if you get that 1 foul, and obviously if you get that second foul in the first half.
Coach, our next question, all the way down the left field line, back to the warning track with Andy Katz.
Matt, names that were rattled off for winning this award. Separate the NBA part here, just college basketball. When you hear Ralph Sampson, Jerry Lucas, Kareem, Bill Walton, Pete Maravich, I'm including the Robertson here, and it's an unbelievable list. It's a Hall of Fame list. Where do you put Zach Edey in the college basketball historical perspective after what he has just accomplished the last 2 years?
Well, I think there's that consistency of, being able to be a National Player of the Year for 2 years and back-to-back years is very impressive. With that being said, like if you go back to Jerry Lucas's Ohio State games, obviously Lou Alcindor at UCLA, and Ralph Sampson at Virginia, you're talking about a lot of success. So those guys just didn't have gaudy numbers. Their teams won a lot of games. And I think when you look at Zach, he's in that same boat when it comes to individual success and team success. But it's a little surreal too. So like when we've talked about it, Andy, like when he'll pass certain guys, like the scoring in the Big Ten or the rebounding in the Big Ten, like he's going by Cassie Russell or he's going by Walt Bellamy. And he doesn't know who the hell Cassie Russell and Walt Bellamy are. And these guys are just legends and great players. But, it's 40 years ago, 50 years ago. There's so much time has went by. So like, Jerry Lucas could arguably be the best Big Ten player ever from a career standpoint. If you go look at how many rebounds he averaged, how many points he averaged, and they were in Final Fours. I think they won a national championship, if I'm not mistaken. It was 10 years before I was born. But like he had unbelievable numbers across the board. So when you see some of those comparisons, go look at David Robinson's numbers, go look at Shaquille O'Neal's numbers. He's right there with both of those guys. He didn't have as many blocks as those guys did, but the rebounds and points are eerie in terms of how similar they are.
If I can I just follow up one quick thing?
You may. Please
do.
The
difference also with him is he was not hyped coming out of high school and didn't have all those accolades. I know obviously freshmen couldn't play many decades ago, but still, what does that say about Zach that he had to go on this learning curve to get to this elite status? Yeah,
in that group of guys, he's the outlier. There's no question about that, because from Lou Alcindor to Jerry Lucas, Elvin Hayes has been in a lot of these discussions. Ralph Sampson, like all of those guys coming out of high school, were the best player in the country. And then they ended up being the best player in college, and they ended up having great NBA careers. So it says a lot about him. It says a lot about his development. Obviously, he has elite size. He's really improved his lateral movement, his mobility overall. Rebounds out of his area, can change the ends, can play ball screen defense, which is so important. He's a great passer now. He has, in a couple of those areas that I've said positive things about, he just wasn't there 4 years ago. And so now that improvement and that development, you really got to give credit to him, give credit to his teammates. Brandon Brantley, one of our assistants, has put in a lot of time with him, watching video, working on things, just being fundamentally sound. And, kudos to him. And he doesn't have a wall. You're the best player in the country when you're 14 and you recruit them when they're 18 or 19. Like, you feel pretty good about yourself, right? Like, he just doesn't have that element to him. He just takes things in, and we communicate and kind of collaborate, and then we just kind of go from there, and it's pretty refreshing.
All the way up front on the left side.
Hey, Matt. Brendan Quinn from The Athletic. I think the last game in Detroit was your worst shooting night of the season, I believe. Leaving there, what was the feeling of, rebound half the misses, like how good is that, and what a weapon to have versus I would prefer not to have the worst shooting night in the regional finals.
Well, it's what I said after the Gonzaga game is after we made a lot of shots, who are we if we miss those shots? Can we still grind that game out and beat Gonzaga? It's very hypothetical, but then the next night that happened. And so our dominance on the glass, Zach's dominance inside, they want to limit our threes, and they did. We were 3 for 15, and even though Lance made a big one there at the end of the game. And so I think that's the balance that we search. We search Zach getting the basketball, Braden Smith playing through ball screen action, but having that balance of, getting to 9, 10, 11, 12 threes to go along with Zach posting up and scoring the basketball. And if you don't get it, how are you going to offset that? And I think we offset that through getting some key stops late in the game and the rebounding that you mentioned.
Sure.
When you look at, past Final Fours and the domes and the shooting numbers and things like that, are you even planning on potentially crashing, harder or whatever? How do you see that as a weapon possibly for 2 more games?
Right. Well, I think, we're a great offensive rebounding team. So our problem is if we turn the ball over. I don't think our problem is if we miss shots as much, even though we're obviously not trying to miss shots, right? But that's where we've gotten into our issues. I think we're 27-0 with 13 turnovers or less. And I think we're 6-4 with 14 to 17 turnovers. 17 is the most we've gotten this year. So when we get into there, we're still, we can still win those games. But when we've had 13 turnovers or less, even when we struggle shooting the basketball, we've been successful. They're a little bit tighter, more of a grinder type games, but we've been successful there.
Center of the room, Jeff.
Jeff Borzello, ESPN. Lance has been sort of viewed as the missing piece, or at least the biggest difference personnel-wise from last year. What did you like from him when he was in the portal, or what you saw in film from last season? Yeah. And what has he kind of brought to the table this season? Yeah,
well, we felt that, we needed a combination of some athleticism, some quickness, a guy that can make a shot, and somebody that can guard. And he's been able to give us, all those elements. The thing that you don't know is just how they are. They're kind of their makeup, even though you try to figure it out. He's got a great personality about him. He's got a good way about him. He competes, but he's got a smile on his face. He's a joy to be around. And he had a good college coach in Brian Mullins at Southern Illinois. He had a really good high school coach in Mike Ellis. And I'd coached one of Mike Ellis's other guys who really knew how to defend and really knew what was going on defensively when he came here. So you knew you had that. And that's kind of the way of the world right now. It's kind of the landscape. We got the fruits of their labor. We were very fortunate to be able to get somebody that was a quality player that could step right in. And now we were just kind of piecing the puzzle, where other programs, I think that's a much harder thing. So that's like a tip of the cap to NC State, because all of their guys, most of them, have come from other places, and Coach Keats has done a great job of piecing that puzzle together. It took them a little bit longer, but that's what I've told our team. That's that 9-0 team. They're not they were 17-14 at one time. That team's gone. That's not their team. Their team is 9-0, but that takes a little bit of time when you're piecing everything together, and you got 5-6 guys that have been there a year, or been there a week, or been there 2 years, versus Zach Edey's been there 4 years. Braden and Fletcher are morphing into their sophomore year. Mason Gillis is in his 5th year. Trey Kaufman's in his 3rd year. You can go right down the thing, for us, and we have an international trip. So I think that was good for Lance, being able to go on that trip and play with our guys and get a feel for things.
The row behind on the left.
Coach. Mark Sigler, San Diego Union Tribune. We've seen this resurgence in the big man in college basketball at a time when the NBA kind of has gone the other direction. How do you see those two styles of play evolving in the future now that we've had this season with big men in college? Do you think it continues in college, or does it morph into the NBA?
It's a good question. I think it can go either way. I think it would definitely be more in the NBA if the best player is Shaquille O'Neal, because you got to have a couple guys on every roster to guard him. If you have more players like him, that's the best player in the whole league, which he was for, 8 to 10 years. He was dominant, and his career was longer than that, but I would be safe to be able to say that. When the best guy, or you have a couple guys like it, so just think David Robinson, Akeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal, on down the line, right? There's a lot of Patrick Ewing. There was a lot of great centers through that era. If that happened again, even though the game has evolved, it would shift, because they're the best players, right? They're the best players. Doesn't mean there's not good guards and forwards in the NBA, because there's a bunch of them. But I think that would really change some things as, coming on, Yao Ming. If can he go and do some things and be able to play like that, or if he was coming at that time. Like, I don't understand that piece of it, because the only thing I've ever tried to do on our level, and which is much different than the professional level, is just circle things around our best players, right? And so, like, that's what we do. Who brings value to Zach, and how does Zach bring value to you? And then we try to talk about that. Like, so if you can make a shot and not turn the ball over, and you can, feed the post, you're gold for us, because that makes you better and that makes him better. So it's an interesting question. I don't know if you can just give a straight answer to that, but I know that would upset the apple cart if somebody is that dominant, like a Timmy Duncan or a Shaquille O'Neal.
On the left side of the aisle, Billy.
Billy Witz with the New York Times. Matt, the college athlete experience is probably a little bit different now than when you played, with questions about employment and revenue sharing and NIL. I'm just wondering if the term student athlete feels outdated to you.
It's a fabulous question, first of all. I wouldn't say it's outdated. I just think they have to have a clear definition of what name, image, and likeness is, because on some fronts that's occurring, and other fronts it's an auction in the spring. Make sense? We have to get some parameters around what we're actually doing and what's actually going on, and not try to just do something so we can stay out of the courts. And that's all things are happening, because for a long time, what's the product? The product is the player. And they were viewed as amateurs, but they weren't amateurs. There's a lot of money being generated through what they're doing, and they were the product. So name, image, and likeness needed to happen. We just got to get some guardrails around it to be able to get there. And now when you look at the student athlete, the thing that I always tell those guys is, you're going to be a former player for 50 years. Don't be a fool. Understand that your education from Purdue will take you a long way. Understand that. But also the contacts that you will make and how you treat people will take you a long way. We all know guys that are very, very talented in all of our professions that don't know how to treat people because they're so damn talented. They think they can get away with it. And that normally ends up being sour milk. Nobody wants to work with that person or be around that person, even though they're talented. Don't be that way. Get the big picture of what's going on. Get the big picture of life. Treat people the right way. But learn to kill it in two different avenues. Kill it through basketball and kill it through education, and then things will work out for you.
Our next question is going to come from Bill. We're also joined right now by Purdue student athlete Fletcher Lawyer. Questions for Fletcher and Coach Painter at this time. Go ahead, Bill.
Hi, Matt. Bill Roden from Landscape. First of all, congratulations.
Thanks, Bill.
Just curious, I've got two questions, really. The first has to do with kind of like in Billy's cathedral, is about the portal. There's nothing new about transfers. That's sort of been around forever. But I was wondering, how has the transfer portal, the new evolution of the transfer portal, what do you think about it? Has it made your job easier? Does it make you the profession easier, better? So that's for my first question.
For me, I was at the forefront of it because I was the only coach on the subcommittee for the one-time transfer. And so they were really trying to figure out what the pillars were going to be so guys could transfer and be eligible right away. And, they didn't have the data when they did that, Bill. And the thing for me was, it wasn't somebody that was going to go be an NBA player or somebody who's going to go be a professional basketball player. What everybody has to understand about rules through Division III, Division II, NAIA, Division I, low major, mid major, high major, that 99% of them are not professional basketball players. So you get these opportunities. I'm not sitting here as the coach without the opportunity to have a scholarship at Purdue. And so these opportunities save lives, But if you're not loyal to people, there's nothing wrong with transferring. There's people in the stands that have transferred and you've moved. It's a positive thing. But if you're changing to change and you're doing what you want to do instead of what's best for you, and now at the end of the day, if it affects your education and it affects your contacts, every person in here got something through their education to help them, but every person in here has gotten something through the contacts that they've gained that have helped them move a little bit. We all have done that. If I need to get another job or I need to do something, hey man, when you make a call, Bill, you make a call for me. Like, put a call in for me. They help me out here. So we all do that. So when I wasn't fighting for the Zach Edeys of the world, You know, I was fighting for the people on my team and the low majors and the mid majors in Division II that aren't pros. Like now they want to do something. It's like your parents, right? That stop you from you doing what you want to do so you can do what's best for you so you can have a great life. It is not about going pro or anything of that nature in my mind, because 99% of them aren't pros. With that being said, I don't want to take somebody's dream away from them, right? You want them to have that dream and to be able to accomplish some of those things, but education is going to take you a lot longer in life and help you so you can have a quality life. So getting a scholarship and then being able to take that and get an education is not always about basketball. It's about having a great life and having your own family and then helping other people. And if you just change 3 or 4 times and then you don't get your degree and you don't become a pro and you don't have any contacts and now you didn't take that opportunity and get any better, then what are we doing for young people? That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't like anybody that devalues education, and a part of this devalues education. You have to help people understand. We've all seen that story. First person in their family get an education, first person to do that. Then they start that good cycle. We all hear the news about a bad cycle, you know, but now, oh, he was a great player. What happened to him? He hit some hard times. Well, I don't want players to hit hard times. You know, I want to help them. And so we've tried to stay the same where we are with it, but I think we're kind of an outlier. But I also think where we are in our state, because we have good players there, we have good high school coaches there, Purdue's got great education. So people really got to take a step back and say, you know, if you want to move, you know, everything on movement, not everything on movement, but most everything on movement is not about winning. And it's not about maybe going to the NCAA tournament. It's about their role. They want to shoot more. They want to play more. They want to and so now if you have that opportunity to move and then you just want to move again, then you want to move again, the only thing you got good at was moving. You know, get good at basketball and get good at education and get good at doing what's best for you and your future.
Bill has a follow-up, and then after Bill's follow-up, we're going to take questions from the individuals in the full court press program with the black lanyards. Bill.
It's good. I'll try to make this quick. I kind of go back and forth about this. There have been a lot of people in your profession, coaches and players, whose careers were totally ended because they took extra benefits and stuff that today would just be minuscule.
Correct.
And I'm just wondering, what do you think about the idea? I know they talk about Reggie Bush. Let's give him the trophy. What do you think about that? About I don't know whether the word would be amnesty or expunging. You know, about acknowledging that. I don't know. But what do you think about going back and saying, you know, maybe we should clear the record or whatever that kind of thing?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think there needs to be a lot of deregulation on a lot of things that has happened in the past, and they need to take a hard dive into looking, because the amateurism was really never there. But yet we called it an amateurism. We said, hey, if you don't like that, then take the chance of being a pro. But yet I'm making a lot of money off of it, and they're the product, right? And so it was a total contradiction. I think everybody in this room agrees with that. So hopefully we can grow. Where I don't like it, like through the NCAA, and I've served on a lot of committees, is there needs to be a collaboration. Like, I think his opinion matters, but I don't know if his opinion matters over mine. You know, because I've sat in his chair and he hasn't sat in mine. You know, but your opinion matters too. When you collaborate, you hear everybody, and now to come together and just do a better job of, you know, because the adults were making that decision at the time. That person that you mentioned, he wasn't an adult, right? He was a supposed student athlete. He was just kind of doing, you know, what's he supposed to do, right? And yeah, I wish they could go back and be able to do that. I think that would probably be the right thing.
We'll take questions now from individuals in the full court press program, and we're looking for a question for Fletcher, if you have one. On the right side up front.
Yes, Jalen Weathers from Arizona State. So really, I guess this is a question for you, Fletcher. And I'm curious. I'm a student as well, and I know I've played sports. So for you on this big stage, how have you been able to focus on being present in this moment of executing these next 2 wins, but at the same time still focusing on your education? Like, school doesn't stop. So how have you been able to find that balance, or has it been difficult?
Yeah, it's definitely been different. It's something you got to adjust to. Throughout the winter, traveling to Big Ten away games, and now kind of being gone these last 3 weeks. It's been tough, but ultimately we got the right people in place. They've done a good job. Whether it's getting us tutors or people making sure we're getting our work done, making sure we're emailing our professors, all that. But ultimately, it's been a lot. It's been a lot to do. It's been busy work here, so making sure having the right people in place, they've done a good job of doing that.
Continuing with questions from individuals in the full court press program. You have a follow-up on the right, and then we'll come to the center.
So speaking about balance again, my next question is, you're playing on this big stage, which is the Final Four, obviously, and you're in this situation where, yes, you want to execute and win these next 2 games, like I've already said, but at the same time, you're in the Final Four. So it's like, you got to be grateful for it, man. So have you been able to find that balance between just being grateful of just being here and soaking up everything, but at the same time, just still focusing in on what's at hand?
Yeah, for us, I think we've all talked about, right now we're on a business trip. Yeah, it's great. You want to enjoy it. You see your families get to enjoy it, all the fans here, and it's really special. You don't want to take it for granted. But at the same time, like Coach said, we're going to be past players for 50 years. We got all the time in the world to enjoy it. So making sure we're locked in and making the most of it, and making sure we're ready for tip-off come Saturday.
In the second row on the right.
Hi, James Morrell from Arizona State. Purdue has been no stranger to success, making it to their 9th consecutive appearance here in the tournament. But in the prior 8 seasons, you haven't quite made it to this point. What has been the separator between those 8 seasons and now?
Obviously playing better at key times. A lot comes to matchups. For us, our losses have been to more to low to mid-major teams. So that's something like you take a hard look at. At the end of every year, you take inventory of yourself, your staff, your players, your style, what works, what doesn't work. And I don't like to think in theory. I like to crunch it and get it figured out. And it's no different than a hypothesis, right? Like you're trying to confirm what your hypothesis is true. And but you can't sit there and have a bias towards it, or you're going to slant it, right? So just allowing it to come to you, collaborating with analytical people, like looking at different things. For me, as the season progressed, I just felt like I had to play more offensive guys. I think that allows us more spacing with Zach, that allows Braden Smith to navigate through ball screens better, and then it allows the people that do have skill, they have a decision to make. So if you just want to take Fletcher away, you just gave Zach and Braden more space. If you don't and you want to shrink from that, you just gave him opportunities to shoot the basketball and play into closeouts and get to angles, which is definitely going to help him. Just using him as an example. Obviously, I'm not going to go through everybody on our team. But that for us was always just being honest with myself and saying, where can I make some moves here? And a lot of times it's personnel too. So I think we added some athleticism, we added some quickness, and that helped us. Lance Jones helped us, Cam Heide helps us, Miles Colvin helps us. But yet a couple of them don't play a lot, but yet when they do, they really give us that spark with that. So I think that's been a real key for us there. We've been able to get to that second weekend. We've only gotten to the Elite 8 game twice. Both times I think we've had really good offensive teams, but yet we got beat by a 16 seed, and we had a top, I think, 5 or 6 offensive team, but we turned the basketball over too. So you go through all those things, and at the end of the day, I'm like, don't turn the ball over. So analytical people talk, you hire new people, you chew on something, you spend 3 to 4 weeks doing different things to get it figured out, and then at the end of the day, just tell Fletch, don't turn the ball over. Braden, don't turn the ball over. Zach, don't turn the ball over. That's what I get to. And when we don't turn the basketball over, we're 27-0. And obviously we have really good players too. I think that's more important than my words.
Likely our final question on the right side.
I know some players, they listen to music before getting on the court and warming up. Do you have any kind of music taste that you prefer to listen to on the court during warm-ups?
Yeah, I kind of like to switch it up. Everybody's got kind of their own thing. I usually kind of listen to country to get me calmed down a little bit, where I'd say most guys probably listen to rap to get them going for the game.
Any final questions from the full court press program? On the right side, up front.
Yeah, my bad, man. I'll keep on asking questions. But last question, well, hopefully. Anyways, I wanted to ask you personally, since you've been here, you mentioned you've been here for 3 weeks now. Not here, but just in the tournament, obviously for 3 weeks. So, since you've been in the tournament, what's been your favorite moment so far? inside the game or even outside the game?
Yeah, I have two. I'd say hearing that buzzer against Tennessee, knowing all the work we put in, we got to the Final Four. One of our goals start of the year, something that we worked really hard to do that obviously we didn't get to do last year. So that, and then coming home off the airplane in West Lafayette, seeing all those fans there on a Sunday night, it means a lot to us. We know us playing hard and us winning games, they like that. They cheer us on, they support us, win or loss. So kind of putting on a show for them and them welcoming us when we got back.
Coach, did you have a favorite moment from the last few weeks that anything stands out?
Obviously, winning against Tennessee to go to the Final Four, just it's a relief, to be honest with you. Like, obviously, you want to cherish the moment. And then for Coach Edey, that was cool for him. He deserved to coach in the Final Four, and he wasn't able to do that. But him being a part of this is pretty cool. So, do you have any moments of living with Coach Edey and you want to share?
That's all the time we have for this session, but we want to thank Fletcher Lawyer. We want to thank Coach Painter. We'll do a separate Coach Edey news conference after hours.